What is up, guys? So when someone asks me how to win more games, the first thing I ask them is, do you win your lane? And if you don't, well, that's where you're going to start. But what happens one game if you just don't win your lane? Well, a lot of people just give up, and that's what this video is going over. Pretty much how to play from behind and how you can help your team win the game, which will let you climb so much quicker. So let me just show you what I mean with another amazing 3D animation. Now say you win your lane 5 games in a row and the solo queue gods smile on you and you actually win all 5 of those games, getting 20 LP per win. Now say that you play 3 more games and you lose your lane in all of them. If you just give up, then you lose 3 games and you take 3 steps backwards, so you're now only up 40 LP on the day. Now if we suppose that you take the advice in this video and you get carried in one of those games, so you lose 2 in a row and you go down to 60 LP, then you get carried and win and go back up to 80 LP. Now if that happens, then you're actually up 80 LP or 4 wins on the day. You just see how one game can make a huge difference. Instead of losing that last game and going down to 40 LP, you've won and gone back up to 80. The point is, winning consistently is the quickest way to climb. And saying that out loud, that's actually really obvious, I guess, but just picking up these extra games are really important. Right, so now I've dazzled you with my animating skills, let's go over how to actually help your team win. Before we go into what you can actually do, I want to go over something you really have to avoid, and that's not paying attention. Now this happens to everyone. You lose concentration because you feel that you aren't having an impact anyway, but this is where you're wrong. Numbers advantage is a big part of snowballing games, and if you die leaving it a 4v5, then the enemy team will probably be confident enough to force something or maybe die. This is one of the biggest things, don't get caught. If you're behind and being pushed in, then you have to assume that your entire jungle is warded and that the enemy is camping there like a professional Call of Duty no-scoper and is just going to wait for you and kill you. I know it sounds obvious, but try to limit your mistakes and let the enemy make them instead. Dying mid-game because you get caught or engage when you're behind stupidly will give up objectives and put you even further behind, which is not what you want at all. I guess the best way of viewing this whole thing is you may not be making the plays or you may not be killing everyone, but you have to make sure that you don't have a negative impact on the game, even if you're not going to have a positive one. Losing your lane just makes the game a lot harder, I guess. It's not lost until we next explode, so there's no reason to give up. The first thing to look at, advice-wise, is making sure that losing your lane doesn't lose the game. You can probably narrow this down to 3 things, so don't fight and just farm, don't die, and ward. Now all 3 are important and kind of follow on from each other as well. So farming without fighting means you'll probably farm under your tower, and honestly this is fine because you'll still be useful in team fights, and that's probably the most optimal way of kind of losing your lane, I guess, and still being useful. Warding is important as well because when you don't fight and they can't kill you, they'll probably then try to roam, and it's important you don't let your lane spill over into others. Now that's what you can focus on in lane, and that's probably a mild loss of your lane, I guess. It's not too bad, you haven't fed too hard and you're still in the game. So what happens moving into the mid game then, regardless of how badly you've done in lane? Now this is all very situational, but I think there are 4 things that really remain the same, and that's farming, getting picks, turtling, and adapting. Farming is always important, obviously, because you need gold and you need to keep getting stronger, but remember that if the enemy team are grouping, then it almost always means you have to group as well to stop them getting anything for free. Getting picks mid-game as well is not as hard as you think. Often when the enemy is ahead, they also get pretty cocky, meaning that if you group, you can pick uneven fights like a 4v3 or 4v2, which is probably the easiest way to snowball the game back into your favour. So if they don't let you pick fights, then you can just turtle and fight under your own tower if you have to. You want to keep telling your team that you have a better late game. Even if it's not true, it's a good morale boost, and that you can still win the game if you just stall it out a little bit longer. So the later the game goes, the less important the gold lead that the enemy team has actually is, and that it's going to be a higher chance for you to come back into the game. So finally, let's talk about adapting, and this is really specific, but it's things like if your AD carry is doing well and you as a top laner are doing pretty badly, then you can just protect them and buy items that have auras or are going to help them, like a locket or maybe even a Randuin's. As another example, if you're an AD carry and you fall behind, then just build a ton of damage and no defense to start with. You may be dying in teamfights, but if you're behind and you build defense, then you're not going to hurt anyway, so what's the point of staying alive? Now some of this may seem obvious, and there's going to be that one person who says, well, my team sucks, so I'm never going to get carried anyway. Well yeah, some people do have bad games, but by that logic, the enemy team are the same elo and should suck as well and make a mistake that will let you back in the game. Just because you lose your lane does not mean that you've lost the game, and hopefully this video will help you deal with it a little bit better. So that wraps it up for another video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any specific video ideas you want to see, but I'll catch you in my next video.